So when I first moved to York, I had a hell of a time finding an apartment. I'd asked the people that I worked with. I knew I wanted to live downtown, and so I asked the people I worked with to direct me to the areas that I should be in or not be in. But I probably looked at a dozen apartments before I found the one that I ended up in, and I got stood up. I got taken around in a car by a strange old man property manager to look at a couple areas. But I ended up in an apartment on the corner of Philadelphia and Queen Street. And I went up and I toured it. And the landlord showed me around. And the kitchen was a sink, a counter that was maybe 3 feet wide, a stove, and a fridge. And that was it, bare bones. And he told me that he was working on getting some more cabinets in, and they were going to replace the fridge, and it would all be ready by the time I moved in. And at that point in my apartment journey, I was like, nothing matters, just let me live here. So I was pleasantly surprised when I moved in, and he had replaced the fridge, and there were additional cabinets, and it looked pretty nice. And I was maybe 4 years into living in an apartment on my own, and so I was learning how to cook. And I had done all of the requisite, fuck-ups. Like, I'd cut off a part of my finger on a mandolin. I had definitely spilled everything you could in your kitchen. I volunteered for a time at a nonprofit cafe, and for one event, they asked you to bring your own chef's knife, and I had to Google which knife they wanted me to bring along. So I was definitely a novice, but I was getting into making my own pasta sauce and processing a pumpkin down into puree and really, really being a homemaker. And I got to one point where I was turning on the turning on the stove to start on a recipe. And my stove was a black and white stove that had the coil burners on top. And I turned on the burner, and I'm getting my ingredients together for the recipe I'm making. And the burner's not getting hot. And I look at it, and I put my hand over it, and it's just not, it's not heating up, but I did turn it on. And so I got frustrated, and I slammed my hand down on the burners to be like, is any one of these working? And one was, for sure. Because I had an imprint of the coil on the palm of my hand. And it hurt like hell. And I definitely should have gone to the emergency room or urgent care or something. But instead, I put ice on it, which they absolutely tell you not to do, and just tried to ignore the fact that my hand maybe would never stop throbbing. So that was a weeknight that I was trying to cook. So I had to go to work the next day. And so I bandaged up my hand the best I could, and I went into work, and every single person who I saw was like, oh my God, what happened to your hand? And I was like, I burned it. And then I told one person the real story of I just didn't know which burner was actually on, and so I have a coil imprint now. And then I earned the nickname Bernie at work for the next 6 months. So who knew? If you're trying to test the heating element of your stove, do not use the palm of your hand.